Okay, so today's topic, we are looking at multi-step, two-dimensional trig problems. So it's basically, you're going to have to use more than one step to get a final answer using trigonometry. So the learning goal, I can use my understanding of primary trig ratios, sine law, cosine law to solve questions at least two, that require at least two steps to solve. All right, so the first question, determine the missing value. So we are going to make the assumption, and it would be given information on a test, that we are dealing with two right angle triangles here. I want to know the value of x in the smaller triangle. So I am looking for that value right here. Okay, and it's part of the larger triangle, I guess. So in order to use SOHCAHTOA, because that's what I'm going to do, so I'm going to start with what I want to know. So SOHCAHTOA. What do I know? Here's my reference angle. So this is my opposite side, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So I need to use either A and H. So I'm either going to use cos or I'm going to use tan. So when I look at the problem, the hypotenuse has no connection or relationship to the other triangle. Okay? So the only relationship that exists is this height here. So I'm probably going to be able to find O, which means I'm going to use TOA. So I'm going to have tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. So tan of 25 will equal, well, I don't know what the opposite is, and I know the adjacent is x. So that means I'm going to jump out of this question, and I'm going to find opposite with second triangle. So I basically start the question as if I have all the information. So that's what I was doing there. I continued until I got to a point where I couldn't go any further. All right. Okay, so finding this information using the other triangle. So the other triangle will be this one here. So I'm going to label it accordingly. So this has to be my reference angle up here. This is my opposite, hypotenuse, my adjacent. So I know the opposite, and I want to know adjacent. So do I have enough information? Yes, I do. If I have two pieces of information in a right angle triangle, then I have lots. So I need to use A and O. So I'm going to actually use tan on this side. So tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. So tan of 40 degrees will equal 15 over, I'm going to leave it as A. Solving for tan. Okay, multiply both sides by A. We do that inverse operation. So that means A tan 40. A tan 40 equals 15. I'm going to divide both sides by tan 40 to get my A value. Again, we do that because it's an inverse operation. So that means that, oops, I kind of erased the wrong one here. There we go. Tan 40 I should be crossing out. So I'm left with A equals, and now you just go to the calculator and you do 15 divided by tan 40, and you get 17.9. And we're working in meters. So now I take this answer and I return to where I left my original part of the question. And now I can continue on. So tan 25 equals, well, that adjacent side from the green triangle is actually the opposite side from the blue. So 17.9 over x. And now I'm just solving for x. So similar process. Multiply both sides by x. And we get x tan 25 equals 17.9. Divide both sides by tan 25 to isolate for x. And we get x equals, and now it's just calculator work from this point. And we get 38.4 meters. So therefore, x is 38.4 meters. All right. Gives you a nice logical process. All right. Shows me where you jumped out and where you returned, and it's identifying the 2 steps available. Okay, so that's one type of multi-step question you'll be dealing with in this unit. What about the following? Determine the area of a triangle. All right, well, area of a triangle, I'm going to start with that since that's what I'm looking for. So area equals base times height over 2, okay, or 1/2 base times height, depending on what formula you're comfortable with. Doesn't really matter. So that's where I'm going to start. So that means area equals, so my base is going to be this, and this is going to be my height. And again, this should be given information. I just didn't draw it in. Okay, it does form a right angle. I don't know base or height here. All right, I don't know base or height. So where do I start? Well, I look at my 2 triangles that I'm given in this case. So I'll designate them yellow one and green one, just so it's easier for me to describe when we're working on them. I can find the height of the triangle. All right, this is my height, I said, right here. So I can find my height by solving the yellow triangle. So the yellow triangle, reference angle. So this side would be opposite. Get rid of that H. This is hypotenuse, and this would be adjacent. So it looks like I'm going to jump out right away, find height. I'm going to use tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. So tan of 15 degrees equals, so tan of 15 degrees, tan 15 equals, opposite side is the unknown, adjacent side is 20, so I'm looking for O here. I'm going to multiply both sides by 20, which will allow me to get the final answer here. So 20 times tan 15 gives me 5.4, and meters is equal to O, or I'll just put opposite then. So that allows me to return to the question. So now, over 2, I have one of my answers, 5.4. I'm going to need the base height here. So I'm going to find base using the green triangle. All right, so I'm just trying to give you an organizational system here. You don't have to do it exactly like this for communication, but I'm just sort of giving you a process to follow here. So in the green triangle, what do I want to know? Well, here is the given angle, the reference angle, which means this is opposite. This would be hypotenuse. And I'm looking for adjacent. So I'm going to have to use apparently tan again. So tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. This time it's tan 30 equals, opposite is the x value, adjacent we just found out in the previous question, and that's why I'm using it. So we're using the 5.4. Multiply both sides by 5.4. And that's all we need to do to get x isolated. So 5.4 multiplied by tan of 30 is 3.1 equals x. So the base will equal 20 plus x, since that's the whole base there in the bottom. So 20 plus 3.1, so 23.1 meters. So I can return up there, and I have the 23.1. And there we go. So 23.1 multiplied by 5.4, divide that by 2, and I get 62. Oops, 62.37. 62.37. So therefore, the area will be 62.37, and got to remember to put our units in. So there we go. So it is now combining grade 9, your measurement unit, with grade 10 trigonometry is basically what's happening here. Okay, for the next example, we want to find a couple of unknowns. This is very, very similar. So these would be labeled normally on a test. X, Y, and Z. So there's our unknowns. So we need to find the three unknowns here. So you can pick them apart depending on which order you want to do it in, sorry. So for example, I'm going to start with X. So I'm looking for the interior angle, or the third and missing angle. So that one's actually the easier of them, because we know that there's 180 degrees in the triangle, and I already know two of the angles. So I'm going to take away 50, take away 70, so 180. I'm taking away 120. So X is equal to 60 degrees. So there is one answer taken care of. So we know that one. How are we going to find Y and Z? Well, if we know all the angles, then I can tell you, safe bet, you're going to use sine law. So I'm going to go Y and Z over here, and we're going to use our sine law. So you can see this considered a multi-step problem. So setting up the sine law, doesn't really matter how you label or where you start with A. So label your triangle ABC. Remember sine law, sine A over A equals sine B over B equals sine C over C. Filling in the information. So we just found angle A, that's our X value, and we don't know side A. Sine of 50 degrees for angle B is our unknown for Y, and C, sine 70 over 8. The third fraction is our pivot fraction. It's got all the information in that we need. So from this relationship, we come out with two equations. We know that sine 60 over Z equals sine 70 over 8. We also know that sine 50 over Y equals sine 70 over 8. So from that, we just need to solve. Unknowns on the bottom, so I'm going to flip the fraction on both sides to make life a little bit easier. And now I'm going to multiply by both sides by that denominator. What that does, inverse operation, so Z will equal 8 times sine 60. You got to make sure you know how to use your calculator. That's why I said whichever one you're going to use on the exam and test, you should be practicing with. 7.4 meters. So there is our second answer. Same thing over here. Unknowns in the denominator, so I'm going to flip the fraction on both sides. I have to multiply both sides by sine 50 to isolate for Y. And I'll get Y equals 8 times 50 sine divided by 70 sine, and I get 6.5 meters. There we go. So that is considered a multi-step question because it took more than one step to get the answer, or in this case, answers. All right. Finish up in the next video. So if you have any questions, please make sure you mark them down so you can ask me in class.